The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in floating pods that circled the massive chamber. At the center, a holographic display showed star maps and trade routes that connected their civilizations. Taemin adjusted his simple black uniform and tried not to feel small. As Earth's newest ambassador, he was still learning the complex politics of galactic society. The other species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humanity had only joined them 50 years ago. "The session will now begin," announced the council speaker, a tall being with crystalline skin that reflected the chamber's lights. "We have urgent matters to discuss." Elder Vextor from the ancient Hegemony Prime raised one of his forearms. His species had ruled a quarter of the galaxy for 10,000 years. "Before we proceed, I must address the elephant in the room." He paused, consulting a translation device. "Forgive me, the human expression. I mean the obvious problem we all see but do not discuss." Murmurs filled the chamber. Taemin felt dozens of alien eyes focusing on him. "Speak plainly, Elder," the speaker said. Vextor's scaled face turned toward Taemin. "The humans come from Earth, in the Sol system. Our historical records show something very strange about that region of space." The holographic display changed to show a section of the galaxy's outer rim. A small yellow star appeared, circled by several planets. Earth looked tiny and insignificant among the vast emptiness. Over the past millennium, 7 major empires have marked this system for conquest or colonization, Vextor continued. The Vorthak Hegemony, the Crystal Dominion, the Shard Collective, the Iron Brotherhood, the Void Touched, the Shadow Fleet, the Star Devourers. Each name appeared on the display as he spoke. Taemin recognized none of them, but the other council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "All of these empires had one thing in common," Vextor said. "After setting course for the Sol system, they completely disappeared. No survivors, no wreckage, no trace of what happened to them." The chamber fell silent except for the hum of the translation devices. Counselor HFY, Earth's military representative, stood up in the human section. She was a stern woman with graying hair and scars on her hands from old battles. "Is there a question in this history lesson, Elder?" "Indeed there is," Vextor replied. "How does a primitive world in the middle of nowhere cause 7 advanced civilizations to vanish without a trace?" HFY's expression didn't change. "Perhaps they found better places to settle. The galaxy is large." "With respect, Counselor, that explanation seems unlikely. These were not explorers. They were conquerors. The Vorthak hegemony alone had ships that could crack planets in half." "Had being the important word," HFY said quietly. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop a few degrees. Even through the translation devices, something in her tone made the other species pause. Admiral Boram, Earth's senior military officer, received a message on her personal device. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. Standing up, she whispered something to Taemin. "Honored Council," Taemin said, "we need to adjourn this session. Earth has received urgent intelligence that affects galactic security." "What kind of intelligence?" the speaker asked. Boram stepped forward. She was younger than HFY, but carried herself with the confidence of someone who had seen real war. "Long-range sensors have detected massive ships moving toward inhabited systems. The energy signatures match records of the Void Reapers." The chamber erupted. Several council members began shouting in their native languages. Others activated emergency protocols. The name Void Reapers sent waves of panic through species that had lived in peace for centuries. "Impossible," Elder Vextor said, his arms trembling. "The Void Reapers have been extinct for 1,000 years. They were the most feared empire in galactic history before they disappeared." "Apparently not as extinct as we thought," Boram replied. The speaker's crystalline form flashed bright red, a sign of extreme stress. "If the Void Reapers have returned, every world in the galaxy is in danger. They don't conquer planets. They harvest all life and move on." Taemin looked at his fellow humans. Haywan and Boram exchanged a glance that seemed to carry an entire conversation. There was something they weren't saying. "How long until they reach inhabited space?" asked Representative Colton from the Outer Rim worlds. "Based on their current speed and trajectory, approximately 6 standard months," Boram said. "But they're not heading for the major worlds first. They're moving toward the outer systems." "Including Sol," Vextor observed. "Yes," Boram confirmed. "Including Sul." The chamber filled with nervous chatter. Many species began calculating how to evacuate their border worlds. Others discussed forming defensive alliances. "What defensive capabilities does Earth possess?" asked the speaker. Haywan and Boram looked at each other again. Finally, Haywan spoke. "Adequate." "Adequate." Elder Vextor laughed, a harsh sound like grinding stones. "Against the Void Reapers? They destroyed civilizations that had ruled for millennia. What could a world that only achieved spaceflight 50 years ago possibly do against them?" "We'll manage," Haywan said simply. Something in her tone made the laughter stop. The other council members stared at the small group of humans. Taimin felt the weight of their attention and wondered what his colleagues knew that he didn't. "Perhaps," suggested Representative Colton, "Earth would be willing to accept refugees from the outer worlds. If the Void Reapers attack the border systems first, millions of beings will need somewhere to go." "No," Haywan said immediately. "Excuse me? Earth will not be accepting refugees during this crisis. But surely you can spare some room on your planet for the innocent civilians who—" "No refugees," Boram interrupted. "Earth's borders are closed to all non-essential traffic until further notice." The council members began protesting. How could humanity be so selfish? How could they refuse to help their galactic neighbors in their time of need? Taimin started to speak up, wanting to apologize for his colleagues' harsh words. But Haywan caught his eye and shook her head slightly. "This session is adjourned," the speaker announced. "All representatives should return to their homeworlds and prepare defensive measures. We will reconvene when we have more information about the Void Reaper threat." As the chamber emptied, Taimin approached Haywan and Boram. "What's going on? Why are we refusing to help refugees? That's not who we are as a species." Haywan looked tired. "You're still new to galactic politics, Taimin. There are things about Earth's history that most humans don't know, things that the Council suspects but can't prove." "What kind of things?" Boram checked her device again. "The kind of things that explain why 7 major empires disappeared after heading toward our little corner of space." "I don't understand." "You will," Haywan said. "But first we need to get home. The Void Reapers aren't the only ones who remember what happened the last time someone tried to harvest Earth." As they walked toward their shuttle, Taimin noticed that the other species gave them a wide berth. Some looked afraid, others looked suspicious. A few looked angry. "Counselor," he said quietly, "are we the good guys in this story?" Haywan paused at the shuttle's entrance. "That depends on how you define good, Ambassador. But we're definitely the ones who survive." The shuttle lifted off, carrying them back toward Earth. Behind them, the Galactic Council prepared for war, against an enemy they thought was extinct. None of them suspected that the real danger might not be the ancient evil returning to the galaxy. It might be the quiet world that had somehow made 7 empires vanish without a trace. Dr. Kyung-ho floated in zero gravity inside the ancient structure, his headlamp cutting through darkness that had lasted for thousands of years. The ruins orbited a dead star near Proxima Centauri, forgotten by every living species in the galaxy. His team had found them by accident while studying stellar anomalies. "The writing is definitely Void Reaper," said his assistant, Dr. Park, as she scanned the wall symbols with her equipment. "But there are other languages mixed in, at least 12 different scripts." Kyung-ho studied the carved symbols that covered every surface of the chamber. The Void Reapers had been gone for a millennium, but their ruins still made him nervous. Everything about their architecture felt wrong, as if it existed in too many dimensions at once. "What do you think this place was?" Park asked. "A monument," Kyung-ho replied, running his fingers over the deep grooves in the metal. "Or maybe a warning," His translation device hummed as it processed the ancient text. Slowly, words began to appear on his display. The first few lines made him frown. "Here lies the record of the great harvest," the text began. "We who consumed 1,000 worlds were brought low by one small planet." Kyung-ho's heart started beating faster. "Park, come look at this." She floated over to read his screen. "Is that talking about Earth?" "Keep reading." The inscription continued. "The blue world showed us mercy when we expected only death. They offered us surrender when we came only to harvest. We refused their kindness and learned too late that mercy was the more terrible option." "That doesn't sound like the Void Reapers," Park said. "They never showed mercy to anyone." "No," Kyung-ho agreed. "This sounds like someone writing about the Void Reapers, someone who fought them and won." More text appeared as the translator worked through the complex symbols, names of other species, coordinates, battle records, all pointing to the same conclusion. "My God," Park whispered. According to this, the Void Reapers didn't just disappear, they were defeated. At Seoul, halfway across the galaxy, Captain Jin A stared at her ship's sensors in disbelief. The readings had to be wrong. Nothing could be that big. "Captain," her navigator called out. "Long-range scans are picking up multiple contacts, distance 50,000 kilometers and closing." On screen, the main display showed empty space filled with stars. Then the computer began highlighting heat signatures, and Jin A felt her blood turn cold. The ships were massive, each one larger than Earth's moon. They moved through space without any visible engines, bending light around their hulls like predators made of shadow. "Void Reaper ships," her science officer whispered. "Just like in the historical records." "How many?" Jin A asked. "Computer shows 12 contacts, but the sensors are having trouble getting accurate readings. It's like they're not entirely in normal space." Jin A had been exploring the outer rim for 5 years. She had seen the ruins of worlds that the Void Reapers had harvested during their ancient campaign. Entire planets stripped down to bare rock, all life converted into gray dust. "Are they scanning us?" "Unknown, Captain. Their technology doesn't work like anything we understand." One of the massive ships began to turn toward them. As it moved, reality seemed to bend around it. Stars shifted position. Space itself rippled like water. "Emergency jump to Earth," Jin A ordered. "Maximum speed." "Captain, we're 30 light-years from home. Even at full speed it will take now." Her ship jumped into hyperspace just as energy beams lanced through the space where they had been. The beams didn't just destroy matter, they seemed to erase it completely, leaving holes in space-time that slowly sealed themselves. Back on Earth, General Wu Jin stood in a bunker buried 2 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility didn't appear on any map. Most government officials didn't know it existed. It had been built during Earth's first contact with alien civilizations, when humanity realized they were not alone in a friendly universe. "Sir," his aide said, "we're receiving an emergency transmission from Captain Jin A's deep space mission." "Put it through." Jin A's face appeared on the main screen. She looked exhausted and frightened. "General, I need to speak with Earth Command immediately. The Void Reapers are active. I repeat, the Void Reapers are active and moving toward inhabited space." Wu Jin had been expecting this call for 20 years. His father had expected it before him. His grandfather had died still waiting for it. "How many ships, Captain?" "At least 12 in the group I encountered, each one the size of a small moon. General, their weapons don't just destroy targets. They unmake them, erase them from reality." "Understood. Are you being pursued?" "I don't think so. We jumped to hyperspace before they could follow." "But General, there's something else. These aren't the same Void Reapers from the historical records. These ships look newer, like they were built recently." Wu Jin closed his eyes. The news was worse than they had hoped, but exactly what they had prepared for. "Captain, you are ordered to return to Earth immediately. Take no detours. Speak to no one about what you've seen until you reach Sol system." "Yes, sir." "But General, shouldn't we warn the other worlds? If the Void Reapers are returning, that's not your concern, Captain. Just get home." The transmission ended. Wu Jin turned to his aide. a young man who had never seen real war. "Activate Protocol 7, he ordered. "Sir, are you sure?" "Protocol 7 hasn't been used since the last time someone tried to harvest Earth." "Yes, I know. Do it." Across the solar system, ancient defense satellites began powering up for the first time in centuries. They had been disguised as asteroids, hidden among the natural debris that orbited the sun. Now they revealed their true nature as weapons, platforms built with technology that officially didn't exist. On the dark side of the moon, installations that had been dormant for generations started broadcasting on frequencies that made sensitive alien equipment malfunction just from proximity. The signals were old, complex, and somehow alive. Dr. Kyung-ho's team worked frantically to translate more of the ancient ruins. Each new section revealed more disturbing truths about Earth's hidden history. "According to this," Park said, reading from her scanner, "the Void Reapers went into hibernation after suffering a catastrophic defeat. But they're not extinct. They were waiting." Waiting for what? For the galaxy to forget what happened to them, for the defensive systems to power down, for the Watchers to grow careless. Kyung-ho found another section of text, this one written in a language he recognized as ancient Chinese. His translation software struggled with the archaic characters. "The Void Reapers were not the first to come for Earth," he read aloud. "They were the seventh. Each previous empire that came to harvest our world became part of our defense. Their ships, their weapons, their knowledge, all turned against the next threat." "That's impossible," Park said. "Humans didn't even have spaceflight when most of these empires existed." "Maybe humans didn't," Kyung-ho replied quietly. "But Earth did. On Mars, automated factories that had been idle for decades began producing ammunition for weapons that no living human had ever seen fired. The machines worked with perfect efficiency, following programming that had been written by engineers long dead. In the asteroid belt, mining operations that appeared to be harvesting simple metals were actually extracting exotic materials needed for weapons that bent the laws of physics. Throughout the solar system, humanity prepared for war with an enemy they had faced before, but this time, the Void Reapers would find Earth ready for them. Captain Jin's ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Her sensors immediately detected the defense satellites powering up, the lunar installations broadcasting their strange signals, the factories on Mars working at full capacity. "Captain," her science officer said in amazement, "these energy readings don't match anything in our databases. Where did all this technology come from?" Ginny stared at her home system and realized she had never really known it at all. Earth looked the same as always, a small blue world orbiting an ordinary star. But now she could see the truth hidden beneath the surface. Her planet wasn't defenseless, it never had been. It had been waiting. Commander Subin sat in the communications center deep beneath Seoul, surrounded by screens showing intercepted alien transmissions. Her team had been monitoring Void Reaper communications for 3 weeks, slowly breaking their encryption codes. What they found made her wish they had never succeeded. "Ma'am," her chief analyst said, "we've decoded another message cluster. You need to see this." The main screen displayed a star map of the galaxy with red lines showing Void Reaper fleet movements. Instead of the random return Subin had expected, the pattern revealed a carefully planned campaign. "They're not just coming back," she said quietly. "They have a specific target list." "Yes, ma'am, and according to their communications, this isn't revenge or conquest. It's completion of something they started 1,000 years ago." Subin studied the tactical data her team had gathered. The Void Reapers called it the Great Harvest, a systematic collection of all advanced life in the galaxy. Every species, every world, every trace of civilization would be processed into gray dust and stored in their massive ships. "Have you identified their primary target?" "That's the strange part, Commander. According to their fleet communications, they're not heading for the galactic core or the major trade routes. Their first target is Sol system. Earth? Why would they prioritize one small world over major population centers?" Her analyst highlighted a section of translated text. "They keep referring to Sol as the wound that must be healed, and the place, where the harvest was broken. It sounds like they have unfinished business with our system. Zubin realized with growing horror that Earth wasn't a random target. It was the reason the Void Reapers were returning at all. 3 levels below her, engineer Hyun-woo worked in laboratories that officially didn't exist. His security clearance was so high that most generals had never heard of his department. Today he was performing maintenance on weapons that shouldn't have been possible to build. The device on his workbench looked like a crystalline sculpture, beautiful and deadly. It had been reverse-engineered from wreckage found in the outer asteroid belt. Wreckage that was thousands of years old but still functioned perfectly. "Status report," General Woo Jin said as he entered the lab. "The Vorthak phase shifters are operating at 98% efficiency." Hyun-woo replied without looking up. "The Crystal Dominion bioweapons are fully charged. The Shard Collective quantum disruptors are ready for deployment. And the Iron Brotherhood kinetic weapons? Those are the most interesting, General. They use technology that converts matter directly into energy, but with an efficiency rate that violates our understanding of physics." Woo Jin walked between workstations where technicians maintained an arsenal that represented the accumulated knowledge of 7 extinct civilizations. Each weapon system had been built from the remains of empires that had once ruled vast sections of the galaxy. "How long until we can deploy the full defensive grid?" "Sir, the full grid has been active for 2 weeks. We're not just maintaining the weapons now, we're improving them." Hyun-woo gestured to a massive device that took up most of the laboratory. "This is our latest project. We call it the Integration Matrix. It allows us to combine technologies from different species that should be completely incompatible." "Show me." Hyun-woo activated the device. Energy flowed between components that had been built by species that had never met, using principles that contradicted each other. Somehow, it all worked together in perfect harmony. "General, what exactly happened to those 7 empires that came to Earth?" "The official records say they disappeared, but this equipment tells a different story." Woo Jin was quiet for a long moment. "They didn't just disappear, engineer. We made them disappear. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology they brought to our system became part of our defense grid." "But how?" "Humanity didn't have this level of technology when most of these empires existed." "No, we didn't. But we had something else. We had the ability to learn from our enemies, to adapt, to become stronger with each attack." In orbit around Earth, President Dasom prepared to address the Galactic Council via quantum entanglement communicator. The other species were growing suspicious of humanity's refusal to share intelligence about the Void Reaper threat. Some had even accused Earth of hiding information that could save millions of lives. She wasn't wrong, but the truth was more complicated than they could imagine. "Madam President," her aide said, "the Council is ready for your statement." Dasom activated the communicator. Her image would appear simultaneously in the Council chambers and in the government buildings of every major world. What she was about to tell them would change how they saw humanity forever. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," she began, "you have asked repeatedly why Earth refuses to share our defensive plans against the Void Reaper threat. You have questioned why we will not accept refugees or allow your military advisors to visit our system." The camera focused on her face. She looked calm, almost serene, but her words carried an undertone that made even the most powerful species pay attention. "You want to know why every empire that attacked Earth vanished without a trace? The answer is simple. We never let anyone leave who came with hostile intent." Across the galaxy, alien leaders leaned forward in their seats. Some reached for weapons. They couldn't see. Others began calculating the distance to their nearest military bases. "The Vorthak hegemony came to our system with a fleet of 10,000 ships," Dasom continued. "They planned to strip mine our planets and enslave our population. We studied their technology while they studied our defenses. When they finally attacked, we knew everything about them. They knew nothing about us. The Crystal Dominion sent living ships that could regenerate from any damage. They thought themselves invincible. We taught them the difference between regeneration and resurrection. The Shard Collective brought weapons that could shatter matter at the quantum level. They discovered that shattered matter can be reassembled in more useful configurations. Each revelation sent new waves of fear through the galactic community. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were hunters who let prey come to them. The Iron Brotherhood, the Void Touched, the Shadow Fleet, the Star Devourers. Each came to harvest Earth. Each became part of Earth instead. Dasom paused to let the implications sink in. Now the Void Reapers return to finish their great harvest. They believe they are coming back to complete what they started. They are wrong. They are coming back to give us the final piece of technology we need. The quantum communicator carried her words across light years instantly, but the silence that followed seemed to last forever. You ask why we won't let you help us, she said finally. It's not because we don't trust you. It's because we don't want you to see what we've become. The transmission ended. In the council chambers, representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in stunned silence. Elder Vextor from Hegemony Prime was the first to speak. Did she just confess to committing genocide against 7 major civilizations? She confessed to something worse, replied the speaker, his crystalline form flickering with distress. She confessed to becoming them. Back on Earth, Dr. Kyung-ho made one final discovery in the ancient ruins near Proxima Centauri. Hidden beneath layers of Void Reaper script, he found human writing. Not modern human writing, but something old enough to predate recorded history. The message was simple. We remember. We learn. We become. The harvest ends here. Below it, in newer text, someone had added, Phase 1 complete. Preparing for Phase 2. Kyung-ho realized with growing terror that humanity's war against galactic empires hadn't been defensive at all. It had been preparation. The Void Reapers weren't returning to finish their harvest. They were returning to face a species that had spent 1,000 years learning how to be the perfect predator, and they had no idea what was waiting for them. Intelligence Officer Minho stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, a datapad in his hands containing files that would rewrite galactic history. Behind him, holographic displays showed star charts, battle records, and archaeological evidence spanning 10,000 years. Honorable Council, he began, you have demanded answers about Earth's involvement in the disappearance of 7 major empires. What I am about to show you will explain not just their disappearances, but the true purpose behind humanity's place in this galaxy. The chamber was more crowded than usual. Representatives from over 300 worlds had come to hear Earth's explanation. Many had weapons ready, expecting humans to finally reveal themselves as the monsters they suspected. Minho activated the first display. The pattern began 12,000 years ago with the Crimson Empire. They were not one of the 7 you know about. They were the first. A red star system appeared on the display, showing massive ships moving toward Sol. The Crimson Empire ruled half the galaxy before they decided to expand into the outer rim. Earth was barely out of the Stone Age. Humanity lived in small tribes and had just discovered agriculture. What happened to them? Asked Elder Vextor. They landed on Earth with colonization equipment and a small military force. They expected no resistance from primitive humans. For 6 months, they established bases and began converting Earth's biosphere to match their home world. The display showed landing sites across ancient Earth, with Crimson Empire structures rising from virgin wilderness. Then something changed. Human tribes began working together in ways they never had before. They stopped fighting each other and focused on the invaders. Within 2 years, every Crimson Empire installation had been destroyed. Impossible, scoffed Representative Colton. Stone Age humans against advanced aliens? You're thinking about it wrong, Minho replied. Humans didn't defeat the Crimson Empire through superior technology. They defeated them through superior learning. By the time the war ended, human tribes were using Crimson Empire weapons, flying their ships, and speaking their language. The next display showed archaeological sites across Earth. We have found Crimson Empire technology buried in locations that match ancient human settlements, tools, weapons, and devices that humanity integrated into their development. When the I-Key Next Empire arrived 3,000 years later, they found a world that had mysteriously advanced beyond what should have been possible. Humans had metal weapons when they should have had stone. They had basic vehicles when they should have been walking. They had organizational systems that let them coordinate across continents. Fleet Admiral Seung-hoon took over the presentation. He was a large man with scars on his face and hands that told stories of battles fought in space and on alien worlds. Every empire that came to Earth made the same mistake, he said. They assumed we were the same species that had defeated the previous invaders. They were wrong. Explain, the speaker demanded. Humanity doesn't just defeat enemies, we become them. When the Vorthak hegemony brought their phase shift technology to Earth, we didn't just steal it. We integrated it into our biology. Human soldiers can now shift between dimensions the same way Vorthak warriors could. Seung-hoon gestured, and his form briefly became translucent before solidifying again. Gasps echoed through the chamber. When the Crystal Dominion attacked with their living ships, we didn't just capture them, we learned to think like them. Human engineers now grow their equipment instead of building it. Behind him, a section of the wall began moving like living tissue. What the Council had assumed was metal was actually a form of biological technology that responded to human thought. The Shard Collective brought quantum weapons that could unmake matter at the subatomic level. We didn't just reverse engineer them. We evolved the ability to perceive quantum states with our natural senses. Several Council members began reaching for emergency communicators. They were starting to understand that they weren't just talking to humans anymore. Each empire that attacked Earth contributed to our evolution. Seung-hoon continued. Not just technologically, but biologically and mentally. We are no longer the species you first encountered 50 years ago. Dr. Yoon-ah, Earth's chief scientist, activated another display showing DNA sequences and brain scans. Analysis of human genetic material shows markers from over a dozen different species. Our neural patterns include structures that allow us to process information the way other aliens do. You're describing parasitism, Elder Vextor said with disgust. You absorb other species like some kind of biological virus. No, Yuna replied calmly. We're describing evolution, but not the slow, random evolution you're familiar with. Directed evolution, conscious evolution, we choose what we become based on what challenges we face. The display showed brain scans of human children born in the past decade. The newest generation of humans shows integration patterns that we didn't plan or engineer. They're naturally developing abilities that previous generations had to learn, through technology. Most interesting of all, she continued, is that these children seem to be preparing for abilities we haven't encountered yet. Their brains are developing structures that don't match any known alien species. What does that mean? The speaker asked. It means humanity is evolving to face threats that haven't arrived yet. The Void Reapers. Minho activated the final set of displays. Every empire that attacked Earth was carrying trace elements of Void Reaper technology. Not enough to be obvious, but enough to leave patterns. The Vorthak phase shifters used principles derived from Void Reaper dimensional manipulation. The Crystal Dominion bioships incorporated concepts from Void Reaper organic technology. The pattern became clear on the holographic display. Each attacking empire had been infected by contact with Void Reaper artifacts. They had unknowingly been preparing Earth for the eventual return of the galaxy's most dangerous enemy. We believe the Void Reapers deliberately seeded the galaxy with their technology before they went into hibernation, Minho explained. They wanted their eventual prey to develop defenses based on inferior versions of their own capabilities. So, when they returned, they would know exactly how to counter any resistance. That was their plan, Admiral Seung-hoon said. But they made one critical error. They assumed other species would use their technology the same way they did. They didn't account for humanity's ability to improve on what we steal. The displays showed weapon systems and defense grids that incorporated technology from all 7 extinct empires but enhanced beyond their original capabilities. We didn't just copy Void Reaper technology, Seung-hoon explained. We perfected it. Every weapon they gave us, every defensive system they influenced, every biological adaptation they guided, we made it better. You're saying that humanity has been unconsciously preparing for this war for thousands of years? Representative Colton asked. Not unconsciously, Dr. Yuna corrected. There have always been humans who knew. Guardians who passed knowledge from generation to generation. They guided our species' development, making sure we absorbed the right lessons from each attacking empire. They ensured that when the Void Reapers finally returned, they would face not just another primitive world, but a species that had evolved specifically to be their perfect counter. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't just another galactic species. They were the galaxy's immune system, designed by evolution and guided by ancient knowledge to face the ultimate threat. "There's one more thing," Minho said quietly. "The pattern isn't complete yet. According to our analysis, the Void Reapers aren't just returning to finish their harvest. They're returning because something is forcing them out of hibernation. What could force the most powerful empire in galactic history to act before they're ready?" Minho's expression was grim. "Something worse than they are. Something that even the Void Reapers fear. And when that threat arrives, humanity will be ready for it too, because by then we won't just be human anymore. We'll be everything the galaxy ever was, combined into something the universe has never seen before." The council session ended in chaos as representatives fled to warn their homeworlds. Some wanted to form alliances with Earth. Others wanted to destroy humanity before they became too dangerous. But as their ships left the council station, they all carried the same terrible knowledge. They weren't just facing the return of an ancient enemy. They were witnessing the birth of something new, something that might be salvation or damnation for every living thing in the galaxy, and none of them could stop it. The first Void Reaper ship emerged from dark space at the edge of the Kepler system, home to 12 billion beings across 4 worlds. It was massive beyond imagination, a structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, its surface shifting between states of matter that shouldn't be able to coexist. Captain Renho of the Galactic Defense Force watched his sensors go insane as they tried to process what they were seeing. "All ships maintain defensive formation. Do not engage until we have a better understanding of their capabilities." The Void Reaper ship didn't respond to any communication attempts. Instead, it simply moved toward the nearest inhabited planet. As it approached, the world's surface began to change. Oceans turned gray. Continents lost their color. All life was being converted into the same uniform substance. "Captain," his science officer reported, "the planet's entire biosphere is being processed. Estimated time for complete conversion, 4 hours. 4 hours to process 12 billion lives?" "Yes, sir, and the ship isn't even fully committed to the attack. Sensors show it's operating at perhaps 10% capacity." Within 6 hours, the Kepler system was empty of life. 4 worlds reduced to gray dust, their entire accumulated knowledge and culture stored in the Void Reaper's vast memory banks. The ship then moved toward the next system, leaving behind only lifeless rocks orbiting a dying star. News of Kepler's destruction spread across the galaxy in minutes. Panic followed close behind. The Galactic Defense Force, the most powerful military organization in known space, had been able to do nothing but watch. More Void Reaper ships began emerging from dark space. Not dozens, but hundreds. Each one headed for a different populated system. The galaxy's outer rim became a killing field as world after world fell silent. Colonel Junseo stood in Earth's primary command center, watching tactical displays that showed the Void Reaper advance. The enemy fleet wasn't moving randomly. They were following a careful pattern, harvesting systems in an order that would prevent any effective resistance. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving emergency transmissions from over 40 worlds requesting immediate evacuation assistance. Response? Earth Command has ordered all borders sealed. No ships are allowed to enter Sol system without explicit authorization." Junseo nodded. It seemed cruel, but they couldn't risk compromise of their defensive systems. Not when they were so close to the final confrontation. "Status of our deep space assets? All hidden installations are powered and ready. The asteroid belt weapons platforms are online. The lunar defense grid is operating at full capacity. And the special projects? Integration is complete, sir. All 7 captured technology sets are working together as a unified system. Throughout the solar system, installations that had been hidden for centuries began revealing themselves. What astronomers had catalogued as ordinary asteroids opened like flowers, exposing weapon systems that defied conventional physics. Structures, buried in the surfaces of moons, activated for the first time in 1,000 years. Captain Yoon-jung led the first human fleet to leave the solar system in generations. Her ships looked nothing like the crude vessels that had first ventured into space decades ago. These were hybrid constructions that incorporated the best features of 7 extinct civilizations. Her flagship was built around the skeleton of a Vorthak phase ship, but its hull was grown from Crystal Dominion biometal. The weapon systems used Shard collective quantum manipulation, guided by Iron Brotherhood targeting computers. The engines ran on principles that the Void Touched had discovered while exploring dimensions beyond normal space. "All ships report ready for combat," her tactical officer announced. "Remember," Yoon-jung told her crew, "we're not trying to defeat them in direct combat, we're studying them. Every weapon they fire, every defensive system they activate, every tactical decision they make, all of it is data we need to complete our evolution." Her fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima system, where a Void Reaper ship was finishing the harvest of the local worlds. The enemy vessel was even larger than the reports had suggested, its hull covered with structures that seemed to exist in folded space. "Beginning scan sequence," her science officer reported. "Holy Captain, this ship is using technology that incorporates principles from all 7 empires that attacked Earth." "Confirmed. But notice the modifications. They've taken our innovations and improved them." The Void Reaper ship became aware of their presence and turned toward them. Energy began building along weapon arrays that looked disturbingly familiar. "Those are enhanced versions of the quantum disruptors we captured from the Shard Collective," Yoon-jung observed. "And those hull modifications, they're based on our improvements to Crystal Dominion bio-armor." "Captain, how is that possible? We never shared that technology with anyone." "Because they're learning from us the same way we learned from others. Every time we used their technology against other threats, they were watching, studying, adapting." That Void Reaper ship opened fire. The energy beams that lanced toward Yoon-jung's fleet weren't just improved versions of familiar weapons. They were perfect counters to human defensive systems. Evasive maneuvers, all ships scatter. Her fleet broke formation just as space around them exploded with energy that could unmake matter at the quantum level. 2 of her ships were caught in the attack and simply ceased to exist. "Return fire." Human weapons struck the Void Reaper ship, with the combined technological legacy of 7 empires. The enemy vessel's shields absorbed the attacks without any visible effect. "Captain," her tactical officer called out, "our weapons are having no effect. It's like they know exactly what we're going to do before we do it." "Because they do," Yoon-jung realized. "They seeded those 7 empires with technology specifically designed to prepare us for this moment. Every weapon we built, every defense we developed, every tactical innovation we created, it was all guided by their influence. Are you saying this is a trap? I'm saying this is a test. They want to see how far we've evolved, how much of their technology we've successfully integrated." The Void Reaper ship began launching smaller vessels, fighters that moved through space like living creatures. Each one was unique, incorporating different combinations of the technologies that humanity had stolen over the centuries. "They're not just testing our weapons," Yoon-jung said as she watched the enemy formations. "They're testing us. How we think, how we adapt, how we evolve under pressure." Her remaining ships engaged the Void Reaper fighters in a battle that was as much about learning as it was about survival. Every tactic the humans used was immediately countered. Every weapon they fired was neutralized. Every defense they raised was penetrated. But with each exchange, both sides learned something new. "Captain," her science officer reported, "I'm detecting something strange about their adaptive responses. They're not just countering our technology. They're trying to provoke specific evolutionary responses." "What do you mean?" "Every time they counter one of our systems, they leave an obvious vulnerability that would require us to develop a specific type of enhancement to exploit." Yoon-jung studied the tactical display and realized her science officer was right. The Void Reapers weren't trying to destroy her fleet. They were trying to force humanity to take the next step in their evolution. All ships prepare for emergency jump back to Earth. We've learned what we came here to learn. What's that, Captain? The Void Reapers didn't return to finish their harvest. They returned to finish us. To complete the evolution they started. When they first seeded the galaxy with their technology, her fleet jumped back toward Earth, carrying with them the most terrifying news possible. Humanity hadn't been preparing to fight the Void Reapers. They had been preparing to become them, and the test was almost complete. The final Void Reaper fleet emerged from dark space at the edge of the solar system, like a plague of mechanical locusts. 1,000 ships, each the size of a small moon, arranged in formations that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. At their center was the Harvester Prime, a vessel so massive it had its own gravitational field. Admiral So Young stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, watching the enemy fleet approach through sensors that processed information in ways that would have driven earlier generations insane. Her ship existed simultaneously in 7 different dimensional states. Its hull a living fusion of technologies that had once belonged to extinct civilizations. All defensive platforms report ready, her tactical officer announced. The asteroid belt weapons are online. Lunar installations are targeting the lead ships. Mars production facilities are operating at maximum output. And our special assets? The integration matrix is fully operational. All captured technologies are synchronized and ready for final protocol activation. So Young nodded. Around her, the bridge crew worked with the calm efficiency of a species that had been preparing for this moment for 1,000 years. But she knew they were about to discover whether their evolution had been enough. Open a channel to the Harvester. Prime? The main screen activated, showing the interior of the enemy flagship. The Void Reaper commander was humanoid but wrong in every possible way. Its skin shifted between states of matter. Its eyes saw across spectrums that didn't exist in normal space. When it spoke, reality rippled around its words. "Children of Earth," it said, and its voice carried harmonics that resonated in dimensions beyond sound. "You have grown much since we last visited your small world." "Not as much as you might think," So Young replied. "We're still human." "Are you?" The Void Reaper's expression might have been amusement. "Our sensors detect Vorthak phase shift capabilities in your biology, Crystal Dominion bio-integration in your technology, Shard collective quantum awareness in your consciousness. You are what we designed you to become." Designed? Every empire that attacked your world carried our genetic templates. Every technology they brought was seeded with our influence. Every victory you achieved guided your species toward a predetermined evolutionary path. The Void Reaper gestured, and the display showed images of Earth throughout history. Human tribes, using Crimson Empire tools. Medieval armies equipped with advanced weapons. Industrial societies powered by technologies that shouldn't have existed. For 10,000 years we have guided your development. Each attacking empire was a teacher, sent to give you specific lessons. Each victory made you stronger, smarter, more adaptable. Why? So Young asked, though she was beginning to suspect. The answer? Because we needed successors. The role of harvester is not one we chose. It was forced upon us by something even older than our civilization. We have served as the galaxy's immune system for 1,000,000 years, destroying species that grow too advanced, preventing the emergence of threats that could endanger reality itself. The Void Reaper's form shifted, revealing glimpses of what it had once been. We were like you once, young, curious, full of hope for the future. Then we encountered the true enemy, beings from outside this universe who seek to remake all existence according to their will. We defeated them, but at a terrible cost. We had to become monsters to fight monsters. We had to sacrifice our souls to save our reality. So Young felt her crew's attention focused on the conversation. This was not the simple conquest they had expected. This was something far more complex and terrifying. Now our time is ending, the Void Reaper continued. The true enemy stirs again in the spaces between galaxies. They have learned from their previous defeat and will return stronger than before. When they do, the galaxy will need new guardians. Guardians like us? Guardians exactly like you, a species that can absorb the capabilities of any enemy. A civilization that grows stronger with each challenge. A people who can evolve in real time to face any threat. The display changed to show images of the galaxy being consumed by entities that defied description. Beings made of living mathematics that rewrote the laws of physics wherever they passed. Structures that existed in negative space, consuming reality itself. This is why we seeded your world with our technology. Why we guided the attacks against your species. Why we allowed you to defeat us again and again. Every victory taught you something new. Every enemy made you stronger. So Young realized the horrible truth. You're not here to harvest us. You're here to complete our transformation. Yes, the final lesson requires you to face us directly, to absorb our capabilities and become what the galaxy needs. And if we refuse, then the true enemy will return to find reality defended only by the broken remnants of our dying civilization, and all existence will fall. The conversation ended. Around the solar system, the final battle began. But it wasn't a battle in any conventional sense. The Void Reapers attacked with technologies that humanity had never seen, forcing them to evolve new defenses in real time. When humans adapted, the Void Reapers revealed new capabilities that required further evolution. So Young watched her species transform before her eyes. Human soldiers began incorporating Void Reaper biotechnology into their bodies. Engineers merged their consciousness with alien AI systems. Scientists developed senses that could perceive dimensions beyond normal space-time. The integration matrix worked overtime, combining technologies from 8 different civilizations into hybrid systems that shouldn't have been possible. Weapons that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. Defenses that adapted faster than they could be analyzed. Ships that thought with the collective intelligence of entire species. Admiral, her science officer reported, we're detecting massive changes in human brain patterns across the entire population. It's like our entire species is evolving simultaneously, not evolving. So Young corrected as she felt her own consciousness expanding to encompass awareness of quantum states and dimensional barriers. Ascending. The battle reached its climax when the Harvester Prime opened itself to reveal its true nature. It wasn't just a ship. It was a living repository of every species the Void Reapers had ever encountered. A library of biological and technological capabilities that spanned millions of years. Take what you need, the Void Reaper commander said, as his ship began to dissolve. Become what you must become. The galaxy is now your responsibility. Human ships moved toward the dissolving Void Reaper fleet, not to destroy them, but to absorb them. Technologies, memories, capabilities, and knowledge flowed into humanity's collective consciousness like water finding the lowest level. So Young felt herself becoming something that was no longer entirely human. Her awareness expanded beyond her individual body to encompass her entire fleet, then her species, then patterns of existence she had never imagined possible. When it was over, the solar system looked the same to outside observers. The same planets orbited the same star, but everything had changed. President Changmin addressed the surviving species of the galaxy from Earth's surface, but his words were heard simultaneously in the minds of every sentient being across 1,000 worlds. The harvest is complete, he said, and his voice carried the combined authority of 8 extinct civilizations, but not in the way anyone expected. We are no longer purely human. We are the inheritors of every species that ever challenged us. We carry the memories of the Void Reapers, the knowledge of the empires that tried to conquer us, and the wisdom of civilizations that died defending reality itself. The galaxy is safe from the Void Reapers because we have become them, but we are also still human enough to choose how we use this power. Around the galaxy, the surviving species waited to learn their fate. Some expected to be harvested as the Void Reapers had harvested others. Others hoped for mercy from their new guardians. We will not harvest you, Changmin announced. We will protect you. When the true enemy returns, and they will return, you will find humanity standing between them and everything you hold dear. But remember this day. Remember that every empire that attacked Earth became part of something larger than themselves. We are not conquerors. We are not destroyers. We are evolution itself. And we are watching. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy to contemplate its new reality. Humanity had won the ultimate victory, not through conquest but through transformation. They had become the guardians they had always been meant to be, and in the darkness between galaxies, ancient entities that fed on reality itself stirred in their eons-long slumber, sensing that their greatest enemy had finally emerged. The real war was just beginning.